Today I figured we'd do something a little different. This is the Necrosphinx model for our Tombkins. I had painted this model years ago. I think it's time to update it to match the rest of the army. Now, as you see, it's painted with a two-tone. I kind of do like the ivory. I will have to come in and clean up the gold here. Just really tidy that up. Tidy up a couple other spots. Do these big blades. The blade casing I'll leave gold. The blade itself I'll do our bronze. Figure out why I decided to do a two-tone there. That's kind of bizarre. Probably come in, I'm going to probably paint that ivory like the rest. And then I want to come in here and add a little bit of effect. Maybe a light blue to kind of show that this is animated. But yeah, I mean, this should be a quicker... Oh, we also got to do his toes. Look at that. His nails aren't even done. Who's this nail guy? So, let's get started with this. Welcome to Watchfire Hobbies. Let's grab a brush, settle in, and enjoy the process. So for our Necrosphinx cleanup here, first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm really going to come in and paint these ribs. I want to add in a little bit of blue effect, and a blue effect to the face. Kind of look like it's saturated with magic. So I'm going to use a good Araman blue here, and I have watered this down to about a 2-to-1 ratio. Just coming in, really try to hit just the ribs. Of course, I am going to go over this again with our ivory color. I just really want this guy to stand out, that he, is animated. It's not, a living thing that... So what I'm going to do here, I just got a little bit of water and rub that down a little bit more, just to try to get more of it stuck into the crevices. Now I could use a much thinner brush and try to pick at it, but like I said, I'm coming back in. I'm going to redo the ivory anyways. So might as well just, get this color really in there. And the ivory is all dry brushing. So, like I said, I really just want to get this really in there. I also don't have a contrast color that I really like that fits the Araman blue. I have a lot of their blues. There's just nothing out there that's like, this is Araman blue. Lebanon blue is definitely their old Cantor blue. I'm not sure if that's the right name anymore. But, so yeah, we're just going to hit his face. Which, for an older model, this guy's face is really nicely done. I don't know if this model was ever in plastic or in metal. But in the plastic, I really like how that guy's face looks. So we got to finish up the ribs over here. And I also made sure I hit these two little spots on each back of the hip. That really, it doesn't look great right now, but like I said, we'll come back in, we'll tidy up the ivory. We have to do it because of whatever I was trying to do with this cap. And this part of the tail randomly. So we'll let that dry, and then we're actually probably going to go tidy up the ivory. Now for all the ivory, we're going to come in and start with our Ralakath flesh. And again, I'm just going to come in here, where we touched up. I just try to blend it back in. This is a very simple ivory. I've done this actually for my ogre army. I did all of their skin in this ivory. It's a really nice ivory. It really comes out pretty well, I think. But we're also going to just, curl up all these weird, areas I did paint a little different. I don't really get what I was going for that still, but maybe one day I'll come back to me like, oh, I was trying to do X. I don't know if it will, but this is just a 3-part stop of ivory. It's Relica Flush, then I believe Pallid Witch, and then dry brush of White Scar, I believe. Alright, I think that's just looking a little bit better. Now we're just going to come in here, do his face, and that little hood. So for the next part of the ivory, we're just going to hit it with a quick dry brush of Pallid Witch Flush. I know this is what we used for the wraps, but I think that, with the next step of, after this, we're going to hit it with a little highlight, a very light highlight of Korok's white. And this really, I think, just, lightens it just enough, and then that Korok's white really will bring it out. Like I said, I did a whole army. My ogres have this whole skin tone. So I've done it a couple times. What is nice, and the reason I actually started using this skin tone was my whole ogre army has this skin tone of the ivory. This is really a good spot to make sure you actually write down when you paint something like that, because I never would have, when I did this, I didn't actually save, this as a skin tone, and then, or as a recipe, and then I realized that I had it written down for the ogre, so I was able to, quickly recreate. I mean, I don't know about you, I come back to projects months, years later, so just, I have a quick, I have a little notebook, I just write everything down, and a little hobby hack for any of those who don't do it, or, God forbid, if you wanted to buy the Helmsmiths or Hellsmiths, well, you still can't get, I think, half of them for the Age of Sigmar range on the website yet. So if you start painting them, really like the scheme, make sure you write it down, because you might have some time. So there we are. Layer 2 is done. Well, like I said, we're just going to come in quickly with a dry brush of white scar, but we're going to wait for this to dry. We're waiting for that to dry. We're going to add the blade edges here, in here. We're going to do that with our bronze across the board. Again, so this is our same two-step bronze we've been using across the gold, a little Balthazar's gold. And we're just getting the edge here. Make sure it actually goes on there a little negative. And also I'm going to hit the very tip of this tail. And then we got to make sure we hit the inside. Also, the more I look at it, I want to hit these little upper pieces. Kind of see that more. It still is a part of a blade, an actual cutting edge. There you go. And then we're just going to, darken that. We're going to do the nails and figure out what we're going to do with all the skulls around them. And I think this guy's almost ready. And this is our really thin down Black Templar. We're just going to do it right across the weapons, give them that bronze look. Just going to wipe off some of that. Just adds a little bit of the darkness to it. Matches the rest of the army. Since these are the two big weapons on the Sphinx, we're also going to do the tail in the back. I was going to say spear, but I don't think it's really a spear. So, now our next thing we're going to do is hit our claws. I think we are ready to just base this guy. Alright, so we're going to use our Corvus Black. And we're going to hit all the nails. We're going to come back in after this with a coat of high gloss. Just to get these kind of, more animalistic live nail look. I know he's a statue. There's definitely need some contrast on his feet, or else they just kind of blend. And there we go. Once we're dry, we're going to, like I said, hit that with hard coat or high gloss. I don't actually use the GW brand on that one. And then I'm going to add a little bit of cork and other cardboard just to build with the base. And then we're going to do our desert theme on the base. So let's hit that with some gloss. So we got our Vallejo gloss varnish, an older brush, and we're just going to do all the nails. I just like this kind of shiny black look. I think it'll add a nice little contrast. Kind of call back to the two-tone that we had originally done this model in. And again, this model is one of the models that I had done before it even, before the Old World even came out. So getting updated for our modern army. Super excited. So I got some cork pieces here. This is just parts of old placemats. We're going to base this guy up with our simple desert basing scheme that the rest of the army has. Then it's time for the big reveal. And there we are, based and done. Super fun model to paint. Probably one of the main reasons I got into Tomb Kings. Like I said, I picked up this model before I even started Tomb Kings. Actually, probably before the Old World came out. So in Royal Host, I can run this as a special, which will allow me to run it in my Battle March games. Is that too much, though? Would you be able to deal with this in a 700-point Battle March game? Or am I just going to hamstring myself and not have enough models? Let me know in the comments. I mean, if I'm not able to run this, I can run the Necropolis Knights once I get them painted. Hopefully it won't take as long as this one did. But thank you for spending some of your hobby time with me today. And until next time, enjoy your hobby.